Excellent. So, Shawn Michaels, you are widely regarded as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, professional wrestler of all time, and your name, synonymous with WrestleMania. When I was growing up watching wrestling, the only representation of Scotland was Rowdy Roddy Piper, who is Canadian. Of course, last year we saw the greatest moment for me as a Scottish wrestling fan when a Scotsman won the WWE Championship in the main event of WrestleMania. I dare say that Drew McIntyre's not the only Scottish person that grew up watching wrestling, not seeing Scottish representation, looking to who's the greatest person. Shawn Michaels, looking up to yourself, and now gets to work with you, gets mentored by you. I need to ask, you overseeing all these Scottish talents that are suddenly, with Scotland not being a big wrestling nation until a couple of years ago, what do you think is the secret to this, insurgence of Scottish talent becoming big?
Well, so first of all, I have to say, and I'm okay with saying, us dumb Americans. So I can't grasp, how impactful that must be for y'all. For me, I'm there at the PC, and we have international talent coming from all over the world, and for me, once I start working with my groups, and you get very close to these people, they are very important to you. You establish relationships, and Drew was one of those guys. Drew is a young man he was in the WWE before at such a young age. Went ahead and took a huge chance, a huge risk, bet on himself to go out, establish himself, get more experience, and then come back. And he came back not having to come in and train and do skulls and things like that. He was on a separate deal, and he said, no, I want to come in and work with you as much as I can, which just speaks to the character of the young man and the heart and the desire that he wanted to grow and to learn and to honestly be the best that he could possibly be. And in that time, getting to know him, he is a guy that has worked. I mean, he's a man's man. I used to always tell him, because his first experience didn't go the way he expected it to. And when he came back and we started working together, and I watched his growth and his ability, and I said, you are a 6'5", 245-pound Scottish stud, man. I said, they are going to love you. You are going to get back there and you're going to do well. And honestly, I was one of the first guys to congratulate him after he won the championship. So proud of him and everything that he's accomplished. And again, I'm because, I live here. I can't imagine how important it was for you all. I guess I can only liken it to what the city of San Antonio felt when I finally had my opportunity. And so I can imagine, even for him, realizing, I don't know, just the impact that he's had on Scotland, as a country. And of course we have so many now Scottish talent, and I get to work with them over in NXT UK, and it's just a blast. I mean, and there's something, I will say this, and I'm not patronizing, absolutely some of the, the sweetest, most hardworking young men and women that I've ever met. And, I'm very partial to Gallus. Those boys know I love them. Gallus boys on top. And, yep. and Kaylee Ray. I mean, Kaylee is, again, probably, she to me is probably the greatest, I think, NXT UK Women's Champion, but I think she's just now going to. I guess she's the best kept secret. If she ever chooses to come over and come to America and be part of the WWE from a global standpoint, I see her having the exact same kind of success that Drew has had. She is very, very good. And she has done unbelievable work for us over in the UK. And I couldn't be more proud of her because she is an absolutely fantastic young lady.
Most definitely. And one thing for me, people will be able to hear I've got a pretty strong accent. Getting to watch people with same or similar, at least, accents to myself, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of people in Scotland, you always think, oh, people won't be able to understand you. What's it been like, you know, watching them learn how to cut promos and stuff? And have you ever had to adapt, you know, or get one of them to slow down a little bit and talk a little bit clearer? Is that a thing you've had to tell them?
You bet. Yeah, there's been numerous times both Kaylee and Joe Coffey. What'd you just say? And I said, you've got to slow down. I said, I'm a redneck from Texas. Slow down for me because yeah. So, but look, what I think is great, because again, especially for NXT UK, I used to, again, growing up in Texas, I spoke a little bit of Spanish, but I couldn't do it as fluently. And so you speak a little bit, and then people think, okay, well, he can speak, and they start rattling off. It's like, whoa, slow down. I'm a novice at this. So again, it's something that you all are used to. And again, it's just something every now and then I'd have to go like, I think I know what you said, but you might have to back that up a bit for me. And thank goodness I always have Jim Smallman there every now and then to let me know, they got it right, Shawn. I was like, all right, I trust you. We'll move on from there. But I don't know. Again, to me, it's just that's the joy again of working with these young men and women. I can be silly with them and have a good time, and then still watch them go out and produce such a phenomenal product.
Most definitely. And you yourself have been to Scotland a few times. I think I've done my research, and I think it was 11 or 12 matches you've wrestled here across, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen. But you also did a spoken word show here that sold out in 10 minutes for Inside the Ropes. So obviously the Scottish people absolutely love you. I need to ask if you get any fond memories of Scotland at all?
Well, honestly, I can remember doing Glasgow a couple times. The building there is just phenomenal. And again, those were always tours. And again, it sounds, cliche, but when we went over to the UK, especially, the first time, and then we started going over there on a more regular basis, I had not experienced or seen success like that. Because in the States, again, they sort of got used to us, and some of the events were, not as big as they used to be. And then we went over to the UK, and it was just, again, I can remember saying, like, gosh, I feel like the Beatles. It was amazing, and the energy was just so unbelievable. And that's why when we started doing NXT UK, it was like, I want to go over there, and then that's like, I was all in after that, and that's sort of like, can I do this all the time? Like, if nobody wants this, I'll take it, because it is, the fan base is fantastic. Our talent is great to work with, but no, there's awesome memories. And of course, when I did the spoken word, I can't remember. I wish I could remember the place we went, but just a great little venue, that nightclub. And it's my understanding they would do wrestling in there.
Yeah, it's a Glasgow garage. It is, yeah.
Yeah. It just looks like a fantastic setup. And again, people hanging up around that, that balcony up there was just awesome. And so those are trips you just, we never get tired of going over there, because the energy is just, it makes you so appreciative, because that's why we do this job. Honestly, to go out there and perform in front of people that are really, really enjoying it. And every time we've gone over to the UK, it's always off the charts. And that's, like I said, it hardly makes it feel like work.
Yeah, and I think we're going to move on and talk a little bit about Shawn Michaels now, because the UK is boring. No one wants to hear about that. We want to hear about Shawn Michaels rather than, a country. So we mentioned you're one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. A man who said you were the greatest of all time recently was Ric Flair. And also The Undertaker backed that up. I think Ric Flair said only Ricky Steamboat comes, in the same bracket as you. What do those words mean to you, and do you agree with them?
Well, look, I'm not. Yeah, look, it's all subjective, right? Ours is not a line of work that deals with stats and things of that nature. I will say this: over the years, when I was younger, it was a drive, it was a passion, a desire to be the best, to want to be called, or at least grouped in with the greatest of all time. as you get older, you begin to realize that honestly, it's the guys that I was in there with. It's sort of, again, I can only assume that, in our world here, the Tom Brady's, the Michael Jordans, they very much, and I never want to ever have it sound disrespectful. I greatly appreciate the people, the fans, or, again, even sports writers, or, people thinking you're the best or the greatest, which is very nice. But for me, it means the most to hear it from the guys that I was in the ring with, because those are the people you feel truly know the difference, and again, could feel the difference. I mean, I think that's one thing that, I don't know. I always wanted at least guys' experience with me inside that ring to be something they'd always remember. That it was just, for some reason, being in there with me was, I don't know, easier, special, and a bit more, I guess, natural and comfortable, and of course something that they could look back on and be happy about. So hearing it from my peers is clearly, the best thing to me. But I also do know that stuff is, again, it's here today and gone tomorrow. So it's not something I really think about that much anymore. It's just very nice. I look back on what I think is a really wonderful career that I feel very fortunate to have had.
Yeah, and you mentioned that word "had." You say that in past tense. During the Last Ride documentary, Undertaker kept speaking about how jealous he was that you managed to walk away from the business. You then came back for one match. Is that something that bothers you, that one match in Saudi Arabia with Undertaker, Triple H, and Kane? Or is it something that you're like, it's fine, I still have retired on my own terms? Is there that little inkling that you want to come back for another one to retire on another last match?
No. Like I said, I guess I do. And I guess that's the thing. I can compartmentalize that. I don't know if it's fair, but I can. And look, and I do understand that. I think that's one of the reasons I was able to walk away and be at peace, unlike a lot of people who have struggled with that. And I do understand it. But that second one, it felt, again, just like its own entity unto itself. It had nothing to do with, really, to me, one more match. It was about going out there and having an experience with, my guys. You know what I mean? It was sort of like just I don't know. It's like, saying to somebody like, so you graduated high school? Yes, but I'm going to go back for my 10-year reunion. And I'm still going to do that. But doesn't mean I'm going back to high school and I want to go through it again. So I guess that's how I looked at it. It was an experience that I just wanted to have special with these guys. And as I say, I still look at my retirement and all of it again with nothing but complete joy and satisfaction. And I have since, all those years, really begun to understand and appreciate how special that was for me, because so many guys have struggled with it in the past.
I love that analogy of your high school reunion, going back for one more to have fun. The one that stands out for me, obviously, your retirement match was incredible, but WrestleMania 25 with Undertaker for me is probably the greatest WrestleMania match, maybe the greatest wrestling match of all time. I want to ask about that. Is that a match that you look back on and go, that's the one, that was the greatest match ever? Or do you just think it was just another day at the office?
Well, so certainly not just another day at the office. I can say that I do. It was very special. And again, those things that, are the greatest, again, you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers. Yeah. What I do know is that's the one for me that felt, that's what enabled me to walk away. That's what enabled me to have that piece of going back, even though, again, I did one more but that was the one that just put everything in here in perspective, that gave me the ability to say, this part of my life is done, and I'm now looking at moving into the future. And so for that, it was one of the greatest moments, certainly professionally, that I've ever had, because that's important. This line of work is awesome. And when you do it for a reason, because it's a part of you. And that is, as we, discussed, it's very hard to leave that behind. So again, that, like I said, that's why that moment is very, very special to me.
There's one thing about, the WrestleMania 26 match that's always played on my mind, and I feel like I'd be remiss not to ask you about it. Obviously, you knew you were retiring at the end of that match. Another match on that card was Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon, and one of the most talked about things in your career, Bret Hart's career, and Vince McMahon's lifestyle. Was there ever a moment that you were meant to be involved in that match, or was it the kind of thing where it's like, we know Shawn Michaels is retiring, so let's just not have him part of it? Was it ever discussed?
No, not to my recollection. No, that was a 100% total separate thing, and I'm sure creatively, I don't even think someone would have talked about that, because of course you've got the I quit match, or the career threatening match, whatever it was we called it. So I'm certainly they wouldn't want to mix, have there be any confusion between the two. So no, no, and like I said, to me again, it was so great to have Bret back. To be perfectly honest, so I think that was kept totally separate than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And that, it allowed you to have the perfect retirement. Another perfect retirement you were involved in was the aforementioned Ric Flair, and that "I'm Sorry, I Love You," which is probably one of the most emotional moments in wrestling history. Was that something you thought up before, or was it something spontaneous? How did that come about?
Well, so I told the story. So a lot of it, again, it's when I know what I'm doing at WrestleMania, there's always a point to which it's something it comes to me. And so I woke up in the middle of the night at home at 2:00 in the morning, and I just had all these thoughts. So I started writing it down. And, truth be told, I get very emotional writing it down, because then it started flowing from this 15-year-old wrestling fan, and what this guy's impact sort of was on my life, and then ending up being my career, and then a friendship and everything else. So it just got really, emotional at the end, and I was sitting there to myself, and I'm looking at it, and I thought, I don't know if this is spectacular or if it's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen, because it's a grown man writing a love letter to another grown man. So I just gave the overall concept to Michael Hayes and to Rick, and of course they both just got very quiet and like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so, like I said, and it wasn't, like I said, it was more conveying the emotion of all of that than ever actually saying it. It wasn't like in my notes, like, and then at the end, I'll say, I love you, I'm sorry, and kick him. And so, yeah, a lot of that was, again, it really was, it was just a combination of it. That's what I was saying in my thoughts. And then it just occurred to me, how about I actually say it? You know what I mean? And then, so I honestly can't remember if I recall telling anybody I was going to say that or not. I just know, because it was very, as you can see, Rick was crying in the match. He was crying right after. We were crying before. It was an emotional time anyway. So there was a great deal of realism to that. Because again, it was taking me back to the 15-year-old guy that was watching him on TV, and now having the opportunity to have his last match in the WWE. And so there are some aspects of this stuff where we get old and soft, and that was one of them. Yeah.
I like that you mentioned that word soft there, because that's something I need to bring up. You, as someone who spent your whole life in wrestling, and you're now a trainer, a mentor, coach, do a load of things backstage. I recently asked Triple H about Undertaker, and he mentioned that Undertaker might be joining NXT to help along with that. Undertaker recently made some comments about the product now being a little soft for his liking. I'm not going to ask you about that, because it's been asked everyone to death. But what I want to ask you about, by your own admission, you were a little bit of, a wild child when you were in wrestling. You had a bit of a different life outside of wrestling than the life we see, wrestlers have nowadays. How would the Shawn Michaels that we know now, that, as the mentor, as the guy that's coaching everyone along, how would he deal with Shawn Michaels from back then?
I don't know. I I don't think I'd deal with him. And I'd probably suggest that we let him go. He's going to be nothing but trouble, no matter how talented he is. And like I said, either that or get him help. And that would be the only, honestly, that would be the biggest thing is, again, especially, I guess, as I look at it, I think to myself, well, I was good at my job. So when you see that kind of ability, and they're young and they are just angry at everything and obviously have a problem, as opposed to getting rid of them, the first thing you probably should be doing is helping them. So the more that I think about it, I think to myself that, again, we should try to at least help him, because the young man is going to end up hurting himself someday. Where it's going to be one of those wrestling tragedies that we hear about. So I think if he had all the drug issues and things like of that I had, that'd be the first step. If it was just an attitude thing and there were no other circumstances, that's when, sometimes it may not matter how good he is. He's probably more trouble than he's worth.
Most definitely. And I've got two final questions because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm very appreciative that you've given me so much time. Every wrestling fan nowadays, all the hardcore fans, always talk about kayfabe, how kayfabe is dead. I think two of my favourite Shawn Michaels moments across your career have been moments where you've broken kayfabe in the middle of the ring or on the ramp. One being the click moment and one being the hug on the top of the ramp with Undertaker and Triple H. What was the process behind those? Was there any thought process, or was it just that pure emotion kind of took over and you went, this has to happen?
Yeah. I mean, clearly at different points in my career, but again, the one was, just saying goodbye to your buddies. And certainly for me at that time, we had also spent so much time together, and it was it was them leaving, and back then we were on the road with each other 250, 275 days a year. They're family at that point. And so that was emotion. And the one with Undertaker, again, the same thing. Again, now we're talking about all of us, older, mellowed out, grown, changed with each other, but still, again, intertwined in a very unique business and in a very unique situation. And like I said, there are some times in this line of work where it gets to be real. And I guess as you put it, the breaking of the kayfabe, that realness also works for the job. It also works for the fan base, the whatever you want to call it, the entertainment, the enjoyment of the viewer as well. I think those are times when those aren't things that hurt the business. Certainly that one with the Undertaker. I know that the curtain call and all that years earlier was seen differently by a lot of people, and I understand that. But I think the one now we've come all these years later, and I don't think that would be looked upon the same way now, because it's not as if a lot of people don't understand how the business works.
Yeah, most definitely. And I do have one final question. I want to bring it back to the modern day. We are getting to talk, thankfully for me, because of technology, and it's a wonderful thing. NXT UK, of course, I've spoken to a few people and they say that the most bizarre thing ever is hearing your voice, booming over the production that allows you to help them put out a product, which we're all thankful for. What's that like, producing a wrestling show from the other side of the world and having your voice boom over a venue to all these people?
Yeah, at first it was pretty challenging. Again, just trying to, obviously, it's very hard not being there, wanting to be there and to convey the passion. And also, again, we enjoyed going over there. I love our talent over there. I mean, I'm connected to them in a I don't know. I hope in a way that they understand is unlike a lot of stuff. Again, it is almost like family. They feel like estranged sons and daughters. I mean, that again, you begin to really care about them and want success for them and want them to fulfill their hopes and dreams. And I love being over there physically, being able to do that, to convey that with them. But thankfully we can still do it in this environment. It's just a little bit more challenging. And yeah, sometimes the only way to do it is to hit the little switch and what they call the voice of God and say it over. So it has to be shorter and sweeter as you can tell by this interview, I can be long-winded. So that's been the hardest part, is conveying our appreciation and our thanks, for everything and all the hard work that they're doing, but trying to do it in a timely way that doesn't sound too overbearing with them at the in that system. But again, it's great to be still having to be able to be so hands-on with NXT UK, and we're very happy with our relationship there at BT, and just the great success. And of course, the fact that the NXT UK universe enjoys it, obviously is a blast for us as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that I'm very grateful that you're long-winded, because you've been very generous with your time. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and can't wait to hopefully see you back in the UK very soon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we are looking forward to it. We can't wait to get back.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.